beginning on your back.
Laying everything out long, turn your palms to face the ceiling. Start to notice how it feels to be meeting the ground. How do you feel in your physical body? How are you feeling your physical body? How are you meeting the ground? Muscles, bones, ligaments, tendons. Starting to deepen the breath cycle, expanding the belly, the ribs, and the chest as you inhale and exhaling in reverse. Chest, ribs, belly. Start to notice the emotional body. Where are you feeling your emotions? Maybe your belly, your chest, your head, your muscles. How are you feeling your feelings? Working for these complete breath cycles, coming all the way up to the top and all the way down to the bottom. Notice how there's always a little bit more you could have exhaled. Work to come all the way up to the top on the inhale. Notice how your thoughts are flowing. Are they flowing easily? Do they seem to be finding a place of stillness? Maybe they're rushing around or spiraling, obsessing on a single thought or topic. How does it feel to be inside of your skin, meeting the ground? We'll start the practice by bringing the feet together, bending the knees and letting the knees drop open, finding a reclined cobbler's pose, or reclined butterfly. Once you have this set up, we're just going to try to release the tension of the legs, letting the knees drop down, letting the thighs release tension. Let this get heavy. To review our tenets of our yin practice, now that we've found our shape, the first tenet of yin is that we want to find the 80% or edge of each pose. This is the place where we can hang out without any need to fidget or shift. We might be able to try to force this down in some way, but it would mean that we would start to get uncomfortable in the shape and would start to want to come out of this. Anytime you're fidgeting, you're starting the pose over and over again, losing the benefit. So there might be a little bit of an education. The first few times you find a pose, you might have to come out and come back in and find a shallower position as you learn what 80% feels like. Our second tenet of yin is releasing the muscle tension, letting the body get heavy, letting the weight of the body do the work to open us. In a vinyasa or hatha yoga practice, we're using our muscles to stretch our muscles. We pin the skeleton in place with the pose and then use the muscles to stretch ourselves. Here, we're asking just the weight of the body and gravity to do the work for us. Bringing us to our third tenet of yin, holding each pose for a length of time. We're going to be here for minutes and not moments. It's like moving teeth in bone. We don't jerk them around. We move them slowly over a long period of time. This is the same type of tissue. We want to give it the same type of respect. How is your breath cycle? Congratulate yourself for noticing what your breath cycle is, whether it's deep or shallow, before you work to come back to those full breath cycles again. Giving yourself, if the breath cycle got passive or shallow, just working on creating the habit of noticing what the breath cycle is. Making it a positive experience to notice the breath cycle gives you even a chance to remember to keep the breath cycle flowing fully. How does this pose feel different now than it did at the beginning? What are you feeling deep in your hips? Maybe the buttocks, the inner thighs, the groin. What about in the tailbone or sacral area of the spine? When we open the legs, when we externally rotate, we're contracting across the lower back. Are you feeling any of that? Carefully releasing this, help the feet bring the knees back up to center, and then walk the legs long one at a time, coming back to a neutral position to receive. Notice the sensations of reverberation here. That might feel like a hot or cold sensation or temperature change. It might feel like a tingling or energy running through you. You might feel like you're very old, like you are 1,000 years old. It might break apart or shatter, really very fragile. As long as you need, reverberating this. When you're ready, we're going to find a next pose. We're going to find a head of cow or shoelace pose. So when you're ready to bend the knees, we'll cross the right leg over the left and set this up. Bringing the knees in towards you, reach the hands down for the calves, the ankles, knees, maybe the feet. You will not have a hold of the two same places on the two legs. Be okay with that answer. As this softens, as this comes closer to you, you might need to readjust your hand position so that you feel like your legs are generally centered. Be okay with that answer. Breathe deep into the belly. Does that press the thighs away from you when you inflate the belly? Do they come closer to you on the exhale? Unclenching the jaw, soften the face. Unfurrow your brow. Keeping count over how long it takes you to make your inhale, make the exhale match that same length of time. Stretching it out and slowing it down, see if you can make it last for 10 counts. And if that gets easy, stretch it up to 12. Challenge your body without inflicting pain. Linking the inhale and the exhale together keeps the mind grounded in this present moment, preventing it from wandering off to tell stories or put labels on things like this is suffering or I don't like this. Observing where you are without abandoning yourself in the pose. Carefully releasing the legs with your hands. Let the legs uncross and extend long, one at a time at the end of the mat. Waiting for your reverberation to subside. Notice the sensations of reverberation on this side. We'll want to compare them to how it feels on the second side. Always waiting for your reverberation to complete before you take any back and forth motions, any counter stretches, any next poses. If I start moving before you're ready, simply wait. Missing a few moments of a long held pose is not a big deal. Skipping the reverberation would be a big deal. When you feel ready to do it, we'll bend the knees again, bringing this time the left knee over the right knee. We'll bring the knees closer to you, taking a hold of the shins, the ankles, the calves, or the feet. Whatever helps you hold on to the legs as the knees sink towards you. Again, if it feels like you're getting pulled off to one side, simply readjust your hand position until you feel generally centered here. As the pose starts to develop, how do you feel this on the internal rotation of the legs? Top leg is internally rotating. Do you feel that in the hip, across the thigh, on the outside of it, maybe across the buttock? Do you feel any pulling or lengthening across the low back? Since externally rotating the legs contracts across the low back, here we are stretching across the low back. Do you feel any of that? As you inflate the belly, perhaps the thighs get pushed away from you. Maybe they sink closer as you exhale. Use the breath cycle to explore the pose. How the top of the inhale changes the sensations compared to the bottom of the exhale. As we approach the end of this pose, notice how this pose has developed. What has changed for you from the beginning? Has this side felt different than the first side? The two hips can have very different experiences. Accept that answer without judging it. Carefully releasing the legs one at a time to the mat. Allow them to extend long on the mat, reverberating. Compare the reverberation on the second side to the reverberation on your first side. The next pose, you're going to want to have a block. Now, we're going to do a pontoon pose. Most of you are probably familiar with pontoon pose done on the medium level of the block. Often I'll even take it to the medium level by stacking 2 blocks. And I've seen someone enjoy the highest level of blocks, but we're going to want to use the lowest level of the block for this. So, taking this to a pontoon pose with butterfly legs, we'll lay this all the way back down. Lifting the hips up, tuck the block underneath the tailbone between the waistband and the top of the bottom. So up high like a supported bridge. When you have that set up, we're going to bring the feet together, let the knees drop open. There we have another butterfly, and take the arms overhead in the pontoon. So here we have a pontoon with a butterfly shape. As the upper body softens, the elbows will bend outward. Be okay with that. That's just the way it happens. Come on into a softening in the inner thighs, in the buttocks, letting the knees drop out. As you release the tension here, you might start to feel the back bend a little bit differently. Where is the pressure for you as the low back meets that block? Unclench the jaw and soften the face. See if you can relax your belly. Are you holding tension in your belly? Can you soften that? Deepen your breath. Slow it down. Link the inhale and exhale together. Don't let yourself pause at the top or the bottom. Keep the breath cycle flowing. Carefully changing this pose. We're going to take one leg at a time out long on the mat, leaving the arms overhead. Once you have the legs extended, unclench your buttocks again. Soften the belly. Relax any tension that you are holding in your core. Surrender to the back bend. Notice how it feels to have the hips lifted with the single block and the legs and the upper body pulling you down. Bringing the arms down from overhead, bend one knee and then the other, pulling the block out from underneath you before you extend long on the mat. Surrendering your body towards the floor, letting yourself get heavy here in your reverberation. When you feel like you have received that reverberation, we're going to bring the left knee into the chest and cross it over the body, extending the arms out long off of the shoulders. You can feel free to put the right hand on that left knee if you'd like. It's okay if the left shoulder started to peel up off of the ground. It's okay if the left knee does not touch the ground. It's all right if you feel like you're teeter-tottering here. Soften in your waist. Unclench your core. Let that left leg get heavy. Notice how the inhale pulls you away from the floor and how it feels to sink with the exhale. Is there anything you're breathing gingerly against here or are afraid to inflate against? Slowly bringing that left knee back up, extend the left leg long on the mat. Finding a neutral position with your spine, reverberate the change that we've created in the body. What did that do to any remaining sensations after your pontoon pose? Taking this to the other side when you're ready, we'll bring the right knee up and cross it over the body. Again, extending the arms long. Feel free to place the left hand on the right knee if you'd like. It's all right if the right shoulder has pulled up off of the ground slightly. It's okay if the right knee doesn't reach the ground. You might be feeling like a little bit of a teeter-totter, especially as you rise up away from the floor on your inhale, letting your exhale sink you. How does the beginning of the pose feel? Do you need to work to soften in the belly or the core? Is there anything that you're clenching that you're Finding when you inhale, maybe that you're afraid to inflate fully against. Deepen your breath. Congratulate yourself for noticing if it got passive or shallow. And then come back to those full, complete breath cycles again. Bringing that right knee back up slowly. Extend the leg long on the mat, finding your reverberation as you center your body. Finding an aligned spine, extending the arms and the legs. Notice what the sensations are as you reverberate that twist. When you feel ready to come up seated, we're going to take a caterpillar pose next. So caterpillar pose is the yin version of a seated forward fold, letting the legs go soft so that the toes roll in or out however they'd like. We're just going to let the crown of the head drop us down. So think about bringing the chin towards the chest. Make sure that your arms are walked out far enough that the shoulders are relaxed. As you sink in this pose, you might need to wiggle the fingers even further forward. You'll notice that your chin tries to rise up away from your chest to alleviate the sensation of the pose, but we're here to surrender to the sensations. So drop your chin closer to your chest. Walking the hands out however you need to. Notice the sensations of this pose. We're pulling down the back side of the body, maybe from the base of the skull to the tailbone, but you might not feel that as an even stretch. It might not feel even, it might feel like you've got a hot spot or a place where you just got more fascia to get pulled out. That's fine. There's no way to speed this up. This is the process. We're just going to hang out until that gets pulled out, and then you'll feel it as an even stretch. Bring the chin closer to the chest. Soften the face. Notice the breath cycle here. It might have gotten a little passive or shallow. Start to deepen it again. Notice the weight of the body that we're breathing against. We go to the gym, there's arm machines at the gym, there's leg machines at the gym, there's back machines. If there was a diaphragm machine, this would be it. It's us. We are the diaphragm machine. We're in the diaphragm machine and we're doing reps. We're breathing against the weight of our body, doing reps against that weight, strengthening the diaphragm so that we can breathe easily no matter what position life puts us in. That sounds like a cutesy saying until you drop your phone behind your headboard. When you're in those restricted, twisted positions and you're starting to get short in your breath, you start to get short in your temper. Your temper gets short quick. So we're practicing our breath cycle in restricted poses now where we feel safe so that we have that deep, full breath cycle off the mat in our daily life where we might feel less safe. Drop your chin closer to your chest. Do you need to wiggle your fingers out any? Soften your face. If your eyes are closed here, you might draw the gaze up between the eyebrows to see if there's anything to see, like a dim light or a color, a pattern like pixels. It might be kaleidoscoping in size, shape, color, pattern. Maybe there's nothing, simply avoid. Observing what there is or isn't at the third eye. Without judgment, observe how it feels to breathe here, coming to the top and the bottom of the breath cycle.
Release judgment. Relax your face. Let the chin come closer to the chest and notice how the sensations down the back side of the body have been developing here. Deepen your breath. Notice if it has gotten passive or shallow. Come to the top of the inhale, the bottom of the exhale. Drop the chin closer to the chest. Relax your face. Carefully walking your hands back up. Maybe you lay this all the way back onto your back to reverberate. Notice as you find a neutral position what it feels like here. As you're ready, we'll bring this back up to seated and we're going to sit up. Now I think I'm going to sit up on a bolster. You can sit up on a bolster, you can sit up on blocks, you can sit up on couch cushions. If you have a meditation cushion, you can use that. What we want though is we want the hips high enough that when we cross our legs, the hips and the knees are in alignment with one another, that the knees aren't poking up past the hips. So we don't want the knees to be way up here. We want the knees to be able to drop down. So if that means you have to sit up more, sit up more. You'll also want a strap or length of fabric, whatever you're using to extend your grip. We're going to find an adducts pose. So we're going to have the top leg, so this is going to be my right foot on top of the bottom calf, the left calf. Now I'm not trying to get the foot up to the knee. This isn't a double pigeon or a square pose. We're just going to stack our calves here. So we're just stacking the calves. This is a fairly accessible pose. I'm actually going to scoot to the very edge of my bolster so that my knees can drop down a little bit more so I can sit up comfortably and so this is not bothering me. Once you have that shape, we're going to take a nice wide grip to the strap. Wider grip is easier, narrow grip is harder. Inhaling up and exhaling back behind. All right, so we are moving through shoulder flosses. If your elbows are bending as you take this back behind you, widen your grip. If this doesn't feel like anything, narrow your grip. If you want to move faster than me, feel free to move faster than me. If you want to move slower than me, feel free to move slower than me. What I'm concerned about is that you floss your shoulders, not that you match my speed at all. So finding a couple shoulder flosses here, working through your range of motion. We'll do one more complete one with the ending back behind us. When you get the strap back behind us, let go with one hand. Take the hand with the strap behind the head. We'll find that strap and pull it off to the side. So we're feeling the top arm get pulled behind you. Sit up nice and tall. Breathing here. We're going to carefully help this over to the other side. Be gentle. And breathing, feeling that top arm stretch behind your head. We're going to let go with the far hand. Find the strap at the bottom and pull down as the gaze comes up. Now we're feeling this in the tricep of the top arm. Maybe the shoulder joint behind. It will depend on your shoulder opening, how this is getting pulled on. Releasing this pull, we're going to use the top arm to pull the bottom arm up the back. That hand might get pulled all the way up in between the shoulder blades. Feel free to let out any extra strap if it helps you by extending the top arm up. We're feeling the bottom arm take a stretch, and we're probably feeling this in the front part of the shoulder. Maybe the shoulder blade behind you as it opens out behind you. And then carefully releasing this, let the top hand release the strap, the bottom hand becomes the top hand. Dropping the strap down your back, find the strap from the bottom, pull down, gaze is up. Feel that top tricep, feel that top arm get pulled down your back. And then switching this, use the top arm to pull the bottom arm up the back, maybe up between the shoulder blades. Feel the back shoulder blade open up, feel this in the front part of the bottom shoulder. Releasing the strap. If you're a strap roller, you can roll it up here. We're going to start to bring the shoulders up to the ears. Give this a nice tight squeeze. Inhale. Exhale, drop it down. Inhale, bring your shoulders up, squeeze them up. Exhale, drop it down. One more time, locking the shoulders up to the back of the head or the neck as tight as you can squeeze it, then a little bit tighter. Exhale, release it down. All right, we're going to push our props out from underneath us. So wiggling yourself off of those props. Now we're just sitting on the floor. We're going to fold over the legs here. Now I'm going to take blocks with me. You don't have to use blocks, but I recommend them. Being able to put my elbows or forearms down on a floor or a flat surface helps. So I'm just raising the floor so that I can find a little bit of weight on my upper body. That helps my lower body feel a little bit more comfortable softening. It helps me sink. Now, if a knee or an ankle is bothering you, back off a little bit. You might be able to alleviate it just by flexing the feet a little bit, pulling the toes back towards the shins in order to protect the knees. But honestly, if a knee's hurting you, just back off, or if an ankle's hurting you, just back off a little bit past that pain point, hanging out a little bit away from it. The next time you find the shape, that pain point might be in a different place. It might be moved. You might be able to go deeper. It might be completely gone. So just being okay with where this is today. We're not in any hurry. The body opens in the perfect time, never early and never late. So wherever you are in your yoga journey, there's no need to force this. You're already right on schedule. We're going to carefully help this up here and help your legs apart. Now my right leg was on top. If your left leg was on top, make note of that because we're going to switch it. Being gentle, help the legs extend, helping this reverberate. Maybe you give your kneecaps some love. Take your time reverberating your legs here before we set up the second side. Now you won't need the strap for this. We're going to stretch the neck next. So we won't need the strap. We just needed the strap to stretch the shoulders. When you feel like you're ready to sit up on your bolsters or blocks again, we'll go ahead and raise your seat up. This time placing your left foot on top of your right calf. We're going to stack those calves again so we have a very accessible pose. I'm sitting at the very edge of my bolster so I can sit up straight fairly comfortably here. Dropping the right ear down to the right shoulder, reach the left fingers along for the floor, let the right hand find the side of the head. The elbow is heavy here as we lengthen the left side, the left side of the neck. Breathing deeply. And then releasing the right hand from the side of the head, let the head rock over to the right. Feel free to turn the chin up or down or look over the shoulder if that helps you explore. Before you turn the left palm skyward, finding out what that does to the left neck stretch, and then taking the left arm behind the back for the right hip, finding graceful bow. Bringing the gaze into the right armpit, let the right hand find the corner of the head. The elbow is heavy. This is going to intensify the stretch down the neck, shoulder, and into the upper back. Releasing the head, look over the two shoulders to reset, and then we'll drop the left ear down to the left shoulder, reach the right fingers for the floor, and the left hand's going to settle on the side of the head. The elbow is heavy, sit tall as you lengthen the right side of the neck with your breath. Letting the left side of the head relax, or letting the left hand release from the side of the head, letting the head rock. Feel free to turn the chin up or down, look over the left shoulder, investigate, and then turn that right palm up. Taking the right arm behind the back for the left hip. And then bringing the gaze into the left armpit and letting the left hand find the corner of the head. The elbow is heavy. Releasing to look over the two shoulders, reset, and then we'll drop the chin down to the chest, interlacing the fingers for the back of the head. Sitting tall on the spine, breathe into the belly, and that's going to intensify the stretch between the shoulder blades. Releasing your fingers, let your head float up and all the way back, letting your head just drop back and the mouth open and hang the way that it does. Using your shoulders to lift your head, drop your chin all the way back down to the chest. Choose one direction, start rolling the head around. We're just looking for anything we missed. Anything we didn't get the first time around, notice what that feels like. The next time the chin comes all the way down to the chest, pause and switch your direction. Noticing if the second side or the second direction has any answers that differ from the first side. Again, the next time your chin comes all the way down to the chest, we'll pause and float the head back up. Coming down off of your props, I'm going to push my bolster out from underneath me. And then folding down over the legs, I am going to take my blocks with me yet again. So if you are interested in using blocks here, feel free to do so. Any props that help you rest the upper body so that the lower body can take a deeper stretch, anything that helps your lower body trust you is good. The body can be like a scared little animal, remembering all the times that we heard it, all the times that we pushed it too far, didn't listen to what it was telling us. So here we're earning that trust back by showing our bodies that we can listen to what they have to say. How is your breath cycle? What does the top of the inhale feel like here versus the bottom of the exhale? Does this breath cycle help you sink in the pose? Carefully helping the legs apart here. Be gentle as you find an extension for them. I'm helping my apart with my hands. I would encourage that. All right, so our next pose is going to be an upper back stretch, and it's an intense one. We're only going to hold it for just a little over a couple minutes. I'm going to start with the block underneath my chin in this pose, and you can try this with the block. You can keep the block the entire time. I will cue you when I remove my block. You're free to keep it or lose it or take it out and put it right back in if you don't like that. So in this pose, I'm just going to show you, we're going to keep the knees and the hips aligned. We're not going to shift the hips forward. We're not going to shift the hips back. So the knees and the hips are aligned in this pose. Starting in that knee and hip position, we're going to walk the arms out down to the mat. So this is where I'm going to raise the floor for my chin with a block. We're not putting the forehead down. This isn't a child's pose. This is an upper body stretch. Now with the arms extended, you're going to feel this in your shoulders and your armpits, like someone's shoving a knitting needle or ice picks in there. I want you to relax your lower body. Relax your calves and your feet. Relax your legs. Let your belly hang down. Let your belly relax. And you're going to feel this try to shove you into those shoulder joints. So there's going to be a lot of pressure here. We're breathing here as this opens the upper back, as this opens our heart, our throat. Trying to surrender to the floor. Now, if you're interested in pulling the block out, I'm getting ready to do so. If you end up on your lips or your chin or your nose, just be okay with that. But remember, this is not a child's pose. If you want to go back to the block at any point, you're welcome. carefully shifting forward or back, whatever helps you exit that pose. Help yourself back up and surrender to reverberating that melting heart. That might be a pose where you come out with a little bit of a ragged breath. And when you're particularly deep into a pose, you might come out and have a little bit of a ragged breath, like when you were been crying. That just lets you know you were very, very deep into that position. Our next position we're going to do is we're going to do some lunges next. You will want blocks for this. So even if you don't need blocks for the actual lunge, I'm going to encourage blocks to get out of the lunge. So when you feel ready to set this up, we're going to go ahead and take one leg forward. I'm going to start with my right leg. So if you want to start with the right leg, fine. If you're starting with the left, just make sure that you note that so you don't do the same side twice. So taking the right foot forward. Once I get a hold of that, I'm going to drag myself on the top of the left kneecap. So I'm dragging myself until I feel myself slip to the top of the left kneecap. And then I'm going to need to wiggle the right foot forward until it's at least underneath the knee, if not a little bit past the knee. Now you can have your hands on blocks here. The blocks can be at any different level that helps. You can have your hands on the floor. We want the back leg to go soft, including the calf and the foot. Let the groin sink and shift forward. You're going to feel that back leg get pulled behind you. So that hip flexor is going to get pulled on. Let the front leg, the right leg, go soft, and it might start to press out on the inside of the right arm. Be okay with that answer as well. Let your belly get full with the breath cycle. So don't hold your belly in. Let that belly relax. Maybe feeling the belly slide past the inside of the thigh on the inhales. Remind you to take those big breath cycles. When we breathe into the belly, we're telling the body, oh, I feel safe here. I want to release anxiety and tension. Think about how much tension or anxiety be creating in your body if you spent your day sucking in your tummy. Let that go. Now you can keep the chin lifted and the head lifted here if you'd like, but this is yin. So if it helps, you can just drop the head and neck, letting your upper body C-curve here might pull on the body completely differently. So if it helps you to let your upper body C-curve, to feel like you're getting deeper, or to feel like you're getting a better benefit in the pose, feel free to do so. Find the positioning that helps you sink in this lunge. How's your breath cycle? Deep and full. Finding your blocks. If you don't already have them, find them, take them to the highest level. We're going to use them like crutches to help ourselves escape this lunge. Walking back to the back of the mat, maybe you just stand on the knees. Maybe you sit back on the feet. Some people like to take this all the way down into a child's pose. So whatever helps you feel like you are reverberating, that you're receiving the changes that we've made on this side of the lunge, take as long as you need with that reverberation. Only when you feel ready will we set up the second side. I'm going to take my left leg forward here. If you did the left leg the other time, make sure you're setting up the right side. Once you have that set up, drag yourself forward until you're on the top of that right kneecap. Wiggle the left foot forward until the foot is underneath the knee or slightly beyond the knee. You can stay up on the blocks. You can come down to your hands. You can drop the head and C-curve the upper back if you'd like. Let the back leg go soft. Let it release its tension. Letting that pull on the hip flexor. Let the groin sink towards the front of the room. Let the left leg go soft so it starts to press out on the inside of that left arm. Let your belly get full with the breath. Let it push past the inside of the thigh. Maybe you feel that. And use that sensation to help remind you to keep the breath cycle flowing. Figure out if it helps you to keep the chin lifted or if it helps you to drop the chin. Relax your face. As we settle into this pose, notice if this side feels different than the first side. How does the beginning and end of the lunges compare? Unclench your jaw. How deep and slow can you make your breath cycle here? Carefully helping yourself find the blocks on the highest setting for support. Use them like crutches. Help yourself exit the shape. Maybe standing on the knees, maybe sitting back onto the feet, maybe going down to child's pose. Take as long as you need, reverberating those lunges. We're going to have one more upright posture before we come back to our backs to finish. So we're going to do a deer pose with a lateral stretch. We're going to do a lateral deer pose. So this is a seated posture. It's got cheerleader legs. That's the deer pose posture. And you're going to want one block for support. So sitting off to one side, doesn't matter which side you start with. I'm taking my legs off to the right first. The toes point out. So I'm not pointing the toes back. I'm letting the toes point out. There's a knee stretch in deer pose. The way you get the knee stretch is bring weight into the back hip. You're in control of this. If this seems like too much, stay out of it. The knee's safe. It's on the ground. It's not going to wrench. But at the same time, you're in charge of how much feels appropriate and how much doesn't feel appropriate. Taking the block either on the high or the medium setting between the back foot and the buttock. We're going to use this for support for our elbow. It's going to help us get a deeper side stretch. So taking the elbow to the block, whether that's on the medium or the high setting, the other arm is going to come over, either reaching, you can dangle it, or you can even just put it on your head. So this is what we're looking for. Let the back leg go soft, including the calf and the foot. Breathe into the side stretch. Imagine your lung underneath the skin, expanding that area with the breath, with your inhales, rather than in the rib cage where it belongs. So breathe into that area, trying to see if you can get yourself a little bit deeper into the pose. This pose is pretty hard to breathe in. It's kind of uncomfortable. So we're not going to stay here too long. We are working for those breath cycles. So how does it feel to be working to breathe against the position and weight of your body? Does that affect your emotional state? Breathing through emotions that come up here on the mat gives us the skill to take off the mat when those same emotions come up for us in our daily life where we might feel less safe. Just a little bit further, a couple more breaths. Carefully helping this down. Put the arms around. I like to sit off to the other side and slowly help the legs around. Take your time reverberating. If you want to lay all the way back, go ahead, lay all the way back. Find a neutral position to reverberate what we just did, what we just changed in our lateral deer pose. When you feel like you've had enough of that, we'll bring this back up to seated, bend the knees and take them around to the other side. So again, letting the feet, the calves go soft, choosing how much weight you need in the back leg, putting the block back between the hip and the thigh on the medium or the high setting, set the elbow, and then either dangle the arm, reach the arm, or just place it on the head. Whatever helps you hold the pose. Getting that back leg to soften once you get it set up is kind of key. Breathing into the side stretch is also very important. So working with the breath cycle. Explore what the top of the inhale, the bottom of the exhale feel like. What those sensations feel like in your body, physical body, emotional body. What does it do to your mental body, the flow of your thoughts? Do your thoughts start obsessing or spiraling here? There's just a little bit further. Does this side feel different than the other side? Carefully releasing the arms down, help the legs out from around in that position. Take your time making your way back to your back. You're going to want a block. You're going to want to know where a block is for our very last pose. So just making note of that. That's coming. As you lay back, catch your breath, especially if you were under a little bit of duress, breathing in that lateral deer. When you feel ready, we're going to do our second to last posture, knees to chest or cradle pose. Bringing both knees into your chest. Take a hold of the knees, the shins, or maybe opposite fingers or opposite wrists, opposite hands. It's possible for you to have hold of opposite forearms or elbows, but if doing so means that your hip flexors freak out and try to press your knees back into your arms, let that go. Let there be space between your knees and your chest. We want to be soft here. We're softening into the knees to chest position. We're not pulling or forcing ourselves down to knees to chest. So notice the difference of changing how much pressure is in the knees to chest arrangement with the clasp of your hands. Carefully releasing the knees, release the right one, release the left.
Let the legs extend on the mat. Take a few moments to reverberate how that feels for you. And then we're going to set up our very last posture that's going to help us get into corpse pose. We're going to set up a block tuck. So taking that block, we're going to lift the hips and put the block under the tailbone, down low. Not up by the waistband, but down low, and extend the legs long one at a time. So it'll feel like your tailbone is being tucked. If it feels like your waistband or your butt's being lifted, move that block down until it just feels like your tailbone's being lifted. When you have this shape, what we're looking for is a softening here that feels like you don't have a block underneath you at all. How long does it take? It differs. Everybody's a little bit different. So what we're looking for is maybe some tummy sensations. It might feel like the internal organs slide up inside of you because of the inversion of this, the hips being higher than the heart. Maybe you feel like a heavier dropping sensation is happening in your belly as your internal organs or as the intestines fall away from the wall of the abdominals. Maybe you feel a sensation of your digestion starting as your belly relaxes here. So noticing what those inner sensations are that let you know that you're soft on the block. When you feel like you don't have a block is when you're going to choose to pull it out. It differs for everyone. It differs from practice to practice. When you choose to pull the block out is when you're ready to do it. Walking the shoulder blades down the back so that the palms turn to face up yet again in corpse pose. Finding that relaxed state, arms extended, legs extended. Releasing that deep full breath cycle for those normal breath cycles of your daily life. Release any tension of the shoulders. Let it run down the arms and out of the fingers. Release any remaining tension of the buttocks. Letting it run down the legs and out of the toes. Let your spine get heavy. Hold the mind here, preventing it from wandering off. Remind yourself that there's nothing left to do. No one needs anything from you. There's no one that you need to be. This is only yoga. Wiggling fingers and toes as you're ready. Bringing energy back into your body. Notice how you feel now and compare that to how you felt at the beginning. The answers from the beginning of class. Drawing the arms overhead. Squeeze everything in tight before you bring your knees to your chest. Giving yourself a hug, thanking yourself for practicing, and then rolling to your favorite side for transition and rebirth. Opening yourself up to seated, crossing the legs and stacking the bows of the spine. Inhale, the arms high overhead, letting the palms touch. Exhale them down to heart center. Thank you for sharing your practice with me. My blessing upon you. We are complete. Namaste.